Steven Espinoza, you made another hip-hop reference to me that made me smile. You said Twitter fingers up there.
Twitter fingers, you're right. There's a big difference, there isn't a fighter alive who doesn't say, I want big fights. But, a lot of them get the opportunity and, are not willing to take the risk. And that's what I respect about Mikey. I mean, Mikey says it and he walks the walk. He wants the big fights. Even one, I know it's interesting what he said today, that he's looking forward to being the underdog for once. And if it turns out to be Spence, he definitely would be.
Now, you mentioned Errol Spence's name. Is that fight easy to make and really, really likely? Would you say?
I think it's relatively easy to make. It surprises me. It surprises a lot of people that Mikey wants it. But who are we to stand in the way? If Mikey wants it, Errol says, look, I'll do it. I'm not the one. He's like, I'm not calling him out. He's calling me out. It's an entertaining fight. I think it would do good business.
Great business.
And I think it's interesting. You have two really skilled guys. One a lot bigger, but size isn't always the determining factor.
Now, I haven't seen you since the Zone had the release party. What was your impression of their unveiling, as Eddie Hearn said?
I thought the presentation could have been a little bit better. Look, there's no question that's where media, as a whole is going. I think the challenge is I think for the boxing market as a whole, it will be interesting to see if it leads to more segmentation. Meaning, if the Zone fighters only fight on the Zone and ESPN fighters only fight on ESPN, then we're not any better off than sort of with the promoter rivalries, which maybe seem to be dying down a little bit, but now they're being replaced by network rivalries, or at least potentially. So I think that's the next challenge for the fan is, can all these platforms work together in a way that doesn't create obstacles for fights?
Now, is it realistic? Eddie Hearn just announced maybe 24 hours ago that he signed his portion of the contract for April 13th. And,
look, I've seen the contract. I wouldn't if I was a manager, or if my son was a fighter, if I was a fighter, there's no way I'd sign a contract like that. Now that's Deontay's business, and he may, but it's one of the most one-sided contracts I've ever seen.
What stood out about being one-sided?
Look, it's just, one of the things, it's obvious is the rematch clause. You got two champions, either, if they're both putting their title up, they both get a rematch option. He gave Klitschko a rematch option. Klitschko didn't even have a title. So if you both got titles, either you both get rematch options when you lose, or nobody does. But you don't say, hey, look, my guy gets a rematch option, but your guy who also has a title doesn't get a rematch option. That to me is just illogical and silly.
Is it fear or is it money that's keeping this fight from happening?
I will never say, fear, because I have yet to meet a fighter that's scared. There are a lot of different factors. There are promoter factors. There's trainers and managers who have, various concerns. McCracken has a really strong hand in Joshua's career. Joshua is very dedicated to his UK fans. He's doing great business out there. It's a complicated factor. I would never reduce it to something as simple as fear. But it is kind of tempting. It's sort of like, hey, you're doing great business out there, great, huge events. So he's got options, and he chose the other option, at least for September.
How soon can we expect Deontay Wilder, and what's 2 or 3 opponents that may be floating in the air?
I think we'll see Deontay, definitely fourth quarter of this year, October, November, December. It's all the opponents you've heard about. Brazil has been floated around. You heard Ortiz. One of the things he said.
Would that be based off of what happened in March?
It could be. It certainly could be. A lot of it, I think you pair it with a really intriguing fight, and it could be. But one of the things that Ortiz said today is, he said, look, I want that rematch with all my heart, with my heart and soul is what he said. So I think, Brazil, I think, I think Ortiz, I think, Fury is always a wild card, but I think that's an intriguing fight. I even think, if the sort of network rivalries can be put aside, the winner of White Parker, I think, is an interesting fight. So there are good fights out there. I mean, everybody wants the big fight, I think, I know the Wilder side believes let's do it where it's going to make the most money, which is without question the U.S.
Now,
you got to wrap it up, man.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Simple enough.
Appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow.